3. And then I decided that I would read this funny little thing that happened to me when I was asked to come to speak at the naturalization ceremony for 25 people who were going to become citizens. And I thought, how bizarre is that? You ask some Lakota to come and welcome people to America. It struck me as absurd. I'll take a little more than 5 minutes, I'm sorry to say, but it's called Citizen Citizen. A month after I was given the 2009 Governor's Award as South Dakota's living Indian treasure, I was asked to speak at the naturalization ceremony for 25 new Americans at the U.S. District Court in downtown Rapid City. I don't know why I accepted the invitation, but I did. The potential citizens seated in jury-like seats in front of me as I entered the room were from places like China, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico. Names like Gonzalez and Grimley, Silvana and Vladimir were on the application sheet. I was introduced by Judge D as a Crow Creek Sioux poet, novelist, and scholar. The judge said it was her great privilege and that I had been born at Fort Thompson, South Dakota. I looked about apprehensively. I said a few words to them in my tribal language, not something. And then, what could I say? I had given some thought to this, even jotted down a few notes, but to begin, I distributed an indigenous map and said, this is what America looked like before it was America. The applicants put the map on their laps and studied it as though they would be given a post-test. Surely you know, I went on, there are indigenous people all over the world, and they're up near the Canadian border. They're called Lakota. Yes, they're on this map. Santee, Yankton, Teton. That indicates, you know, the 3 dialects of our language, I explained. I named the 9 Indian reservations in the states slowly and carefully. They make up the 7 council fires of the Sioux Nation. Silence. You know, too, perhaps, I went on, that a true democracy like ours here in the U.S. is troubled by the presence of native peoples very often. The 25 citizens stared. They seemed genuinely puzzled, just like this audience is. Should I mention 30 years of warfare right here where we stand? The theft of 7.7 million acres of treaty land, genocide, poverty? They looked at me again and then at the map. What? We want to be citizens. It's because, I said apologetically, tribes are organized by blood, by clans, you know. Former President Bush has said, as Americans, we are not united by blood. We are united by religion or geography. No. But we're united because we're dedicated to freedom. More silence. Obama says it too. But, I said, American Indians have reason to think carefully about that statement. Yes, very carefully. How did I get here? Standing in front of 25 supplicants to America and 100 of their relatives? I plunged on. Now, you've probably been taught about the Civil War, slavery, about America's brave fight for independence from England, a brave and founding epoch, a landmark for America's marvelous beginning. Yes? But you have not been taught about the cruelty of land theft, the breaking of treaties, the cruelty of colonization. Is that so? I looked about the room. The stricken judge, a little stubby man from the Order of Elks holding 25 small flags. The daughters of the American Revolution representative all of a sudden examining her shoes. The pre-citizens sat politely. I said some more things about history, about the Congressional Act of 1924 that made the Sioux citizens in the U.S. My father, you know, he was a full-blooded Dakota. He was in the Army in World War I, before he was a citizen. Thousands of Indians, I told them, have fought for this country, this land. I didn't mention that my grandson has been in Fallujah, Iraq, in the Marines, for nearly a year. I talked on about the traits of democracy, the Constitution, and then I said, you know, in the beginning, citizenship was just for white males who owned property. Women could not vote, blacks could not vote, Indians were exempt from the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Oh yeah, now though we've come a long way. More silence. I was desperate. Well, maybe I can tell you a funny little story about Crazy Horse and the monument. You've all been there, surely. At the mountain? My voice trailed off as though I had asked a question. Everybody goes there, to the monument. An elderly white woman in a long, unbuttoned tweed coat nodded. I was encouraged. They say this, get up, babe. This is the story. On the mountain, you know, Crazy Horse is pointing to a place over there where my dead lie buried. In response to the white man sculptor's question, where are your homelands? Just then, the white man made a mistake. He set the dynamite under the pointing finger of Crazy Horse and accidentally, he blew the finger clean off. Now, in response to the question, Crazy Horse simply lifts his chin and points with his lips. They looked at me as though I'd lost my mind. Sympathy oozed from them collectively. The judge, fiddling with her pen, looked a little pale. The chubby man from the Order of Elks stood gamely by, clutching his 25 small American flags ready for distribution, waiting for me to either implode or cry. One by one, 6th graders from Riverside School were introduced, and they each read their little poems entitled, What America Means to Me. Finally, 4 elderly white men billed as a shining democracy barbershop quartet marched to the front of the courtroom and sang, God Bless America, and the honor guard retired the flags. Later, the Altrusa Club ladies served refreshment in the ante room. One of the coffee servers said, I think I didn't get it. About Crazy Horse? Was he nodding because he didn't want to point? The granddaughter of the long-deceased white man sculptor came over to me with her coffee cup in her hand and asked without a smile, what did Crazy Horse have to do with this? A young man wearing a jacket stamped with the logo U.S. Army shook my hand and he said, I really liked your speech. I'm from the Philippines, you know. I think what you said was very interesting. He put on his cap and left without speaking to anyone else, clutching his citizenship papers. One of the 6th graders, chomping on a cookie, smiled up at me. You did good, he said.